South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg might be having a media moment as his Iowa poll numbers surge, but he's still not making any gains with African-American voters. His team's solution to boost his numbers: the Douglas Plan, a comprehensive investment in the empowerment of Black America. The sweeping plan includes criminal justice, education, healthcare, and other proposals. When Buttigieg announced that plan, he touted the endorsements of 400 South Carolinians, including 3 very prominent African-American supporters.
But friend of the show, Ryan Grimm, has discovered that many of those people didn't actually endorse the Douglas Plan. In fact, one person whose name was on the list of endorsements remarked she was, quote, alarmed and very much surprised. Here to explain more is Ryan himself. He's a Washington bureau of The Intercept and friend of the show. Welcome back, Ryan. It's great to see you.
It's good to be here.
Okay, Ryan, take it out from the top. It sounds a little complicated, convoluted, but it's actually quite simple. So he has this plan. He puts 3 people's name on that endorsement. Those 3 people say, well, we had nothing to do with this plan. We don't even support it.
Yeah, so there's 3 people that are listed as the top supporters, kind of the authors of like an open letter about how great this plan is. And then below it is a list of 400 South Carolinians who are also supporters. And I noticed that the original plan was rolled out with 3 prominent supporters. And then if you find the plan online now, there's only 2 prominent supporters. Like,
What's going on here?
What happened here?
Yeah.
So I called the 3 prominent supporters. Tamika Devine is a councilwoman from Columbia, South Carolina, and she said, boy, like as soon as that came out, everybody started calling me saying, did you endorse Mayor Pete? And I was like, no. I was very clear with the campaign. I'm not endorsing Mayor Pete. I'm okay to endorse this plan because I think it's a good thing that we talk about issues like this. But I think they were intentionally vague in trying to make it look like I was endorsing Pete himself. She was the best one for the campaign. The other 2 said, I did not endorse that plan. And I told the campaign that I'm not endorsing that plan, and they put my name on it anyway.
So
how does that even happen?
What is the campaign's response? What did they tell you?
So the campaign, after the story went up, they sent an email that they had sent to all 400 plus people who had signed it that said, thank you for endorsing the plan. It's going to be announced tomorrow in the newspaper. If you don't want to be on the list, let us know by 4 p.m.
So you had to opt out.
You have to opt out.
Otherwise, they just assumed that you endorsed.
These are the terms of service.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
That you must opt. So it's like, Obama, if you don't say anything in the next hour, you're endorsing me.
Right.
Well, Obama
he didn't
get back to us.
He blinked.
So must be an endorsement.
Now, so there are 2 pieces of this.
Joe Biden should try that one.
One is the top 3 endorsers who are not endorsers, but the other is the 400. And I also started looking closely at this list because the implication was strongly that these were prominent Black South Carolinians. Washington Post reported as hundreds of prominent Black South Carolinians. Wow. But in South Carolina, you have to register your race, or you can register your race when you register to vote, because of course South Carolina loves to suppress the vote. So they like to know who's Black so they can suppress their vote. And so you run this list of supporters through the voter file, and about half of them are white folks. So when I went to the campaign, I said, half these folks backing the Frederick Douglass Plan for Black America are white folks. And they said, well, we want a multiracial coalition.
Okay.
To implement the plan. I said, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
But the email that they sent to the supporters says, you're joining a list of 400 Black South Carolinians. Wow. Half the people that got that email were white people.
Right? Like
so it's like
me and 400 Black
400 of my best
Not
Black
only
friends.
did the 3 most prominent people don't endorse the plan, or one endorses the plan, won't endorse Buttigieg. The other 2 don't endorse the plan or Buttigieg. And then the hundreds of people who were listed and were told they were joining Black South Carolinians, half of them are white.
Right.
So this is a completely manufactured thing by the Buttigieg campaign.
Right, and these are prominent people.
Yeah.
One is Johnny Cordero, who is the Democratic Party's chairman of the state's Black Caucus.
Right.
And the other is Representative Ivory Thigpen, who's a state representative, well-known pastor in the state, and is the co-chair of the state's Sanders for President operation. And he told them that. He's like, I'm publicly supporting Bernie Sanders for president.
Yeah.
And then he sees this thing. It's like, what?
Well, what does this say about the sort of organization or inexperience of the campaign?
I don't know. I mean, it's a real barreling forward. At best,
It's very aggressive.
If I were the campaign, I'd have said, I'm sorry for the miscommunication.
Right.
It was a huge mistake. Instead, the campaign has said, well, we gave them a chance to opt out.
Right. That's
which
outrageous.
is kind of like a doubling down, which is strange. It's hard to know what to make of the strategy here, because without winning South Carolina in the first 4, without getting above 0% in the black vote, it's impossible to see how you have a path to the nomination.
Absolutely.
And that's one thing, Ryan. It just seems that they have a lot of money. They have people who are working for them who know what they're doing. The ham-handed approach to this seems clear that they're so desperate to clear up the media narrative that they're doing terribly with black voters, and they just can't seem to change that. I mean, this is real example of you don't do this unless you're desperate. You need those names, right? You need to. That Washington Post article, hundreds, and now it's all blown up in their face.
Right. If somebody tells you they're not endorsing the plan, like, they're gonna see it.
Yeah, right.
And it's been 3 weeks and they hadn't gotten hammered for it yet. And Cordero, for instance, told me I wasn't going to make a stink of it publicly because I'm trying to stay neutral and I didn't want to look like I was coming after him. But you called me, so I'm going to tell you.
I'm going to answer honestly. Yeah. I wanted to ask you about another happening related to South Carolina that you may have an opinion on. Deval Patrick has been recruited into the race by, panicked Democratic elites who, can't imagine that Democratic primary voters actually like the candidates that they have on option. And there's a big piece in Politico, which is very predictable, that they're saying, well, the path runs through South Carolina. The idea being that Deval Patrick is African American. Lots of African Americans vote in the South Carolina primary, so he could attract their support. Do you find that plausible?
If he got Obama's endorsement, that changes the game.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah, and maybe he should tell Obama that if he doesn't hear back from him,
by 4 p.m.
it's going to endorse him. This goes back to, he was first elected 2006 in Massachusetts and then reelected in 2010, so he's been out of office since 2014. If from 2014 on he had done public service work, I think he'd be waltzing into the White House right now.
Yeah.
But he didn't. He went to Bain Capital.
Got paid.
Which some of the work that he's done for Bain Capital has been okay. A lot of the other work that he's done has been for pharmaceutical companies, responsible for soaring drug prices. Bain has made billions and billions of dollars by hollowing out the middle class of the United States. If he had done anything else, I think this could be his to lose. But I don't know how you take that record into a Democratic primary. And we haven't even talked about him pushing what did he do? He fired the head of the sex registry in Massachusetts because his brother-in-law was being forced to register.
Who later raped somebody. Who was later raped
his wife.
Yeah.
How do you get past that once you've gotten past the Bain Capital part?
Yeah, that's it. We've been talking about it on the show. It just shows how insulting it is that these Wall Street people can say, well, we need a Buttigieg, but black, so he can appeal to South Carolina voters, despite the fact that Cory Booker and Kamala Harris are losing and Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders are winning amongst black people, because maybe black people are just like everybody else and they vote amongst class and economic concerns.
And it helps him that when Elizabeth Warren recently was pressed for, who were 3 black people who'd be in your cabinet, she hemmed and hawed and then eventually got to Deval Patrick, thought it was safe. He's from Massachusetts. Let me just get through this answer.
Whoops.
Her best attack.
He's a terrific guy.
He's like,
Interesting.
Maybe I should just be president. She can be in my cabinet.
Yeah, well, and look, New Hampshire, important state, right next door to Massachusetts. He'll have some recognition there. So even if he knocks her a couple points there, it's basically a tie ball game that can make a difference.
Yeah, and the Democratic Party is not necessarily the one I'd like it to be. You can't necessarily rule him out.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true. Last question for you real quick. What do you think it says, what is going on behind the scenes that is causing Bloomberg, Deval Patrick, Eric Holder, Hillary Clinton to all come back around and say maybe we have to get in as the last minute savior?
Well, they felt like Joe Biden was probably going to win the nomination, and if he didn't, then other people would step in and they would be the moderate instead. But Biden hasn't faded fast enough. He's taking up too much oxygen, so nobody else has been able to rise. And they see Elizabeth Warren as his front runner. They don't care what Bernie Sanders' poll numbers are or anything else.
Right.
They believe that she's the front runner. They both hate her and think that she's beatable if they can get the right person in. It's a reverse of what happened in 1976 when a whole bunch of liberals kind of split the vote. And allowed Jimmy Carter to sneak through. And after Carter won 30% in Iowa, 30% in New Hampshire, you had Jerry Brown and Frank Church, I think, jumping in very late like they're like, this guy's so weak.
Right.
Somebody from our wing must be able to stop him. But it was too late. And there were too many people trying to stop him. And they may suffer the same fate as a result.
All these candidates help one person, Bernie Sanders.
There we go. All right. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
More Rising after this.